My name is Yasmin Campbell. My weapon is foil, and I am the British under-23 national champion. So I first started fencing just before I turned 8. I didn't actually know what fencing was. My mum heard about it and she wanted me to do something extracurricular, a sport to help me in life. Not just to get into a good school, a good university, but just open doors for me, give me opportunities in life. And I think fencing has done that. I have always done foil. I started fencing foil. I was actually told that if I were to try another weapon, my coach was joking at the time, and at the time my club did do épée, and he said, well, you just won't be fencing foil anymore. Fencing has created this window of opportunity for me to go see and experience world affairs firsthand sometimes, and it's also allowed me to converse with fencers and just understand their viewpoint, which I think is something that everyone should do if they can. Fencing has really shown me the world globally, literally, as it's given me the opportunity to see different cultures and not just something from a Western viewpoint of being from the UK, being from London. And although we are quite liberal and you do tend to see both pictures, the media is still very much biased. And I have developed an interest in politics, not just domestically, but internationally, globally, from what was happening in America, that also what the women's rights are and what's happening in Poland, the protests in Belarus, the recent protests in Russia. When I was 13, I was selected for my first European Championships, which happened to be in Israel. When I was there, I saw that there was a protest outside the hotel we were staying at. The Orthodox Jews were protesting against the conscription into the Israeli army. And I think from that moment, I was interested in politics of the countries that I was going to. And as I got older and made friends internationally, I began to engage in conversations with them. I think fencing has made me very determined, resilient, and has allowed me to persevere when things do get tough. And we haven't always had a good relationship, fencing and I. There have been times where I literally hated it, and I even quit for a few months, over 6 months even. But I think as a child growing up in the sport, it has shaped me positively, especially when it came to studies. My mum always told me that if my studies weren't good, if I wasn't doing well in school, then I would not be fencing. That would be it. I just wouldn't be allowed to train. And well, I'm still here, so I guess that worked. And I think it helps children be determined, be confident, and stick stuff out when it gets tough. And I think fencing for that is really good, whether it's just a hobby or you're a competitive person. I remember the BYCs. It was actually the competition where I found out I had asthma. I think I was in the under 14s, or I was 14, and suddenly I remember not really being able to breathe properly. And it's quite ironic because after that I was diagnosed with sports-induced asthma. Like doing the sport, I've always been very athletic. I did football, I did ballet. So it was kind of weird. But I remember it was great fun. It was the first time I got a chance to see the other weapons, because before then I was just in my little bubble of foil. I hadn't really seen sabre, I hadn't really seen épée, so it was a really fun competition and an interesting one as I found out I had asthma. I remember the juniors and the cadet championships. An interesting fact, I've actually never competed at a junior world championships. However, the year I was set up to, I actually got sent home after the cadet world championships. I was meant to stay on and fence at the junior world championships, but that didn't really work out. And then, COVID happened, so I missed out on my last year, unfortunately, as I was really looking to medal. But I have my seniors ahead of me. After the World Championships, I didn't perform as I wanted to at the Cadet World Championships, especially as at the European Championships. Earlier, I came third, so I was very distraught. I guess I kind of wasn't really thinking, and due to my behavior at the European Championships, I was already on a warning, and then at the World Championships, one little slip up, and well, that was all it took. And then I found myself on a plane back to London from Bulgaria. If I'm honest, the next 2 years after that, I didn't know that I would still be here right now fencing for Britain. After that, I was banned, but then I came back, evidently, but it wasn't smooth sailing either, because then I decided to quit fencing. I had my A-levels. I also had personal problems with my family. I had suffered bereavement, and quite frankly, I was depressed. My mentality wasn't very good. I was very pessimistic. I ended up seeing a psychologist, and we worked together, and then I decided to come back to fencing, but I didn't decide to come back to fence for Britain. It was due to circumstance, but I am glad that I'm here, and I think this whole process made me stronger. So when I did come back, the year, unfortunately, was when COVID began, but my season leading up to that point was very good. It was very strong. I had a very good relationship with British fencing, and I felt supported throughout. At the end of a very, very long, bumpy road, I saw the light. I would like to thank my support system, mainly my mum, of course. I mean, she funds everything, but also my coaches, both coaches who I had when I was younger, who went to the US to coach. I stayed in contact with both of them. They encouraged me through just messaging me, checking up on me to make sure that I was okay, and basically just reassuring me and telling me of talent that I had, that I'd heard but didn't necessarily believe. Also, the coach I had, Marcos, when I came back to fencing, despite us not really competing or doing a season together, as I hadn't quite planned to fence for Britain, I specifically remember saying to one of the British national coaches that I would rather quit before I fenced for Britain ever again. And so we worked really hard. He pushed me, he got my fitness back, and then helped to improve. He helped me improve technically, and then unfortunately he had to leave. And I went to Jermek, who is one of the most well-known coaches. He is like the grandfather of fencing, and I think from both of them and their help is the reason why I had such a great season leading up to the point of when it ended. And I think I was likely to have medalled at the World Championships with our work and also the words and advice from my previous coaches, both Gabor and Ludo. So I would really, I couldn't thank them enough, really. For me, the Olympics are, well, it's a goal. But it's not just a goal, it's like a stepping stone in life. Like for me, I see the Olympics as something I have to do. Just like you graduate university, you finish your sixth form, it's just another stage in my life that I have to do. It's just it's imperative, like I must go to it. That's what it is to me. And I started feeling like this, I think, from the 2012 Olympics. I was actually there watching the men's foil final. I saw the first country in Africa ever win a medal, Egypt. I then saw the Chinese guy win the Olympics. And prior to that moment, I'd always wanted to be a world champion because I regarded the world championships as higher due to the amount of people going. But the Olympics is just a sort of prestige that you can't get any higher than that.